What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Miguel. You're watching Miguel EDC channel where we talk everything EDC gear here, and today we're taking a look at this Kizer knife right here. This one is called the Gavl, G-A-V-E-L, and this one is a very interesting for recent drop. As a matter of fact, new knife as of 2024, I believe, early January. This one dropped, so it's fairly fresh knife here, no dropping from Kizer. This one is a collaboration with NB EDC, which if you know, you know. NB stands for New Breed EDC, aka Mark Perez, also goes by Lieutenant TEX on IG. Check him out. He's also the same guy that brought you the New Breed EDC Clydesdale, which I think is an also very cool knife in its own right. Haven't gotten a chance to check that one out just yet, but hopefully I will sometime in the near future. Of course, this knife and any other knife that you see in this video will be linked down below in the description. So if you want to check out the knife, prices, compare, check availability, all that good stuff. Of course, it does help out the channel when you purchase a knife or any product through those links, but that is entirely 100% up to you and absolutely zero extra cost. With that said, let's go ahead and get started then. All right, let's go right into it. This one is a little bit on the smaller side. EDC, we're looking at under 7 inches, around 6.7, right, 6.65 overall length. We have a blade here of a little bit over 2.75, so like 2.8, with that same cutting edge, and a handle of 3.85, right? So small form factor EDC going on here. Well, let's do some size comparisons as we typically do here in the channel. See Kizer Task and the Kizer Cryptid right here. These are two that I'm currently EDCing right now. Yeah, it's more so, actually a little bit shorter than the Cryptid right there, and obviously shorter than the Task. Check that out. Again, two other amazing Kizer knives for you to check out as well. We're gonna go in reverse order of the typical knives we do here in the channel. Here's the CJRB Pyrite and the Raccoon. All right, so again, this one is more so a medium, right, or so probably the biggest small knife that you can consider before going into sort of the medium category, which is where these two knives live. So it's going to be shorter than those, of course. Here's the Rat Model 1, which is, we know, a behemoth of a knife, and the Rat Model 2, the smaller brother. So still shorter than the Rat Model 2 by at least an inch, maybe inch and a quarter. All right, check it out right there with your own eyes. Here's the Demko AD 20.5 and the Shark Cub, or Shark Cub. And actually, you know, it's very close to the Shark Cub, although, you know, maybe shorter than, you know, quarter inch, half an inch or so shorter. Check it out right there. And last but not least, here's the PM2 and the Para 3. Okay. So again, did I mention it was a slightly smaller EDC knife, right? So what do we have going on for materials here then? We have 154 cm satin finish drop point blade. Some people say it looks very similar to the Kizer Drop Bear. I don't have one on hand to compare it to, but from what I've seen, it's just a little bit smaller, right? A little bit narrower than the one found on the Kizer Drop Bear. It does have a little bit of belly to it as well, right? Nice little switch right here at the top. It is a flat grind going on, right, up until that very obvious line you see right there. And the theme here with this one is, you know, he's going for a very classy design, very elegant gentleman style sort of EDC knife. So we have brass bolsters on this one, and then we have burlap micarta, which I'll tell you this right off the bat, isn't necessarily my favorite type of micarta. You know, I love me, you know, different kinds of micarta and whatnot, but burlap is not one of my favorites. But again, I see how it sort of fits in with the theme here for the classiness, I guess, you know, the gentleman style, if you will. So you have that going on. It does have proud liners, and you have, as far as deployment goes, what is really, really interesting, this is probably going to be the highlight of the video, probably the reason why you clicked on this video in the first place. I don't know. Or you're probably considering buying this knife and you realize, where's the flipper tab? There isn't one. Oh wait, there is one, and it's right there. And that's about one of the craziest moments in everybody's video, is the realization of, holy smokes, that is a tiny, tiny flipper tab. How does that even work, right? There's like barely 2 jimping lines on there, if anything. So I sort of have, and a lot of people, I can probably imagine a lot of people have a love or hate relationship with this flipper tab. You know, for the most part, I do enjoy a knife with a decent flipper tab, one that is jimped, that you have good access to. So even if you had your eyes closed, right, at 5 a.m. in the morning, if you needed to flip it open, you could, right? Nice pronounced flipper tab. That's typically where I come from. And then this is a whole different turn of events here with a very minimalistic, very intentional, I'm sure, right? I don't see Mark designing it very minimal just to make it a pain for everybody to deal with on a daily basis. So it sort of fits the design of the classy style, sort of almost hidden sort of flipper tab. So the way to make it work is you have to, the way I found, me personally at least, to make it work at least successfully every single time, to sort of push your index finger against the liners and then just light switch it, right? Whenever I put this knife down and I come back to it maybe a day later or two, it does take me filling it like 3 to 4 times until I sort of get it. But once I get it, trust me, I get it, right? It's money every single time. Just something to sort of wrap your brain around, right? Make sure that you are doing it correctly, the way that it was intended. It's definitely a different experience and one that you have to be mindful of as compared to other flipper tabs. But obviously that is the elephant in the room, so we have to obviously talk about it. So what, see, I just felt it right there. So would it probably have been more functional if it was a little bit bigger? Probably, right? If it stuck out maybe another 1/10 of an inch or so, maybe had another jumping line. See, like all right, let me practice what I'm preaching here. So again, sink your index finger against the liner and then just light switch it. That is the only way, right? So that is the only way. So, you know, you guys know me, I love a fidgety knife just as much as the next person. This being the only deployment option, you know, I kind of suffer on that department a bit. Not to mention that you can only sink your index finger and light switch it so many times before you start to feel a little sore on your index finger from that. But I did find, so Lefty figured out a way to do, I guess there's some sort of reverse flick you can do over here somewhere. Well, so at some point, you know, we knife enthusiasts, we like to get a little creative. So there it is, right? So somewhere around there, I don't know, Lefty, you gotta give me the password. If you check out his video, he did figure out a way. Maybe it's down here. I don't know. Yeah, there was a way that he could get it to, you know, reverse flick, and it's sort of challenging. Obviously, it's not the way that it was intended. So in order to get this video back on track, yes, there is one deployment and one deployment option. And again, you're either a big fan of it or you're not. And then, you know, so like if I'm not intentional about how I'm flipping it, there's no way I'm going to get it. So I have to put additional, you know, I guess mental juice into making sure that I flip it right. And when I get it right, I'm getting it right. So that's just a compromise that you're making with this knife, just something for you to be aware of. If you think that you're welcoming a challenge, then go for it. If you think that that's going to drive you a little insane, then that's something to think about. But other than that, right, just kind of moving on from there, looking at the rest of the knife, you do have brass bolsters, so it does make an otherwise smaller knife, you know, have some significant weight to it, which is definitely something to keep in mind there. The pocket clip is 3D titanium, right? So they went with a titanium pocket clip on this one, right, which is pretty interesting. Let's do a quick weight check then, right? Talking about that brass. Titanium is a little lighter, right? The micarta helps. We do have stainless steel liners all throughout. So this guy comes in 3 ounces somewhere, right? 3.7, right? So almost 4 ounces, 3.7 ounces. I want to say some smaller EDC knives similar to this I have in the pocket right here, the new Vosteed Corgi Pup, and that one is 2.8 ounces, right? This one has stainless steel liners, but Ultim scales. We have that Vosteed Chipmunk, that was 2.6. And then, I don't know, something full size, like the CJRB Pyrite with stainless steel scales, if you will. That's 3.7. Okay, there we go. We found the right weight. So 3.7, 3.7. So it weighs just as much as the stainless steel CJRB Pyrite, which, you know, by comparison, obviously, it's a slightly bigger knife, not by much, right? So the point there, yes, the brass bolster gives it a little bit of weight. It's a manly type of knife, you know, gentleman, classy type of knife. Some weight to it to make you feel like you have a knife in the pocket, which is good. Ergonomically speaking, it's very comfortable, right? I'm gonna say that. It is in a small, so I have average hands, not the biggest, not the smallest. And the standard grip here sort of leaves your pinky halfway. But if you sort of forward choke on this flat area right here, boom, all of a sudden, you're good to go. Right, you can get some work done. Nice jimping on the blade right there, which is good. So let's just go ahead and do a very scientific paper cutting test here, shall we? Let's see how this guy does. All right, some initial slices right there are good. Let's get some full slices. Yeah, it is definitely slicing and dicing. no doubt about that. But there's might be a possibility you might taper off, depending on what type of cut you're doing. If you're doing a slice, right, you have to be aware of the overall blade length, okay? But yes, it can certainly cut paper, absolutely no doubt about that. What about some cardboard, right? We have some everyday diaper box, single wall cardboard here that we're gonna test out. Keep in mind when cutting cardboard, don't cut perpendicular like this, but rather at an angle, and it will look something like this. Here we go. And yes, that flat grind will put in work. Just get, I want to say it's not the thickest of blades, or it's also not the thinnest of blades either. It is not a full flat grind. It's more so like a halfway or a little bit more than halfway, maybe like 60% flat grind on this one. All right, that's something to consider. So it does get thicker towards the top, obviously. But yeah, you can definitely cut some cardboard. And keep in mind, this thing is not sharp out of the box, right? It has already been making its rounds through the Lefty EDC knife pass around. Again, shout out to Kevin on that for the opportunity to check this one out. But yeah, it seems to be holding a pretty good edge so far. You guys rate it in the comments on a scale from 1 through 10. How sharp is this guy? How much of an edge has it retained? This thing is a slicer, and this thing cuts really, really good. Not to mention that satin finish looks really, really nice. Something about this drop point profile looks really, really classy, almost buck 110-ish or something. You know, I like that the handle sort of, you know, thins out a bit, and it really doesn't lock you into any given position per se. You have nice access to the liner, which by the way is very easy to disengage. Now I do know this one comes with ball bearings, but I did see a Lefty video where he, I guess, gift swapped it. He put some skiff bearings in there. I'm not sure if he left them in there before he sent it for the pass around, but you know, the action is pretty good, or it can be pretty drop shotty if you wanted to. Something like that. That's not typically the way that I like my, I don't know why, but some people like their blade to drop on their fingernail. I don't know why that's the case. I'm more so of hold it upside down, kind of give it a little bit of a turn with my index, and then just, you know, move my fingers out of the way and shake it close. That's just more of my personal preference right there. So let's do a blade though. Let's do a carry profile here, thickness against the Para 3, so it's a little bit thicker than the Para 3, a little bit thicker than the Demko AD 20.5, and last but not least, we'll throw in here the Vision FG. All right, so check that out. It's a little bit thicker than those. Okay, let's do a quick hardware check on this bad boy, shall we? And I want to say, let me grab my T8. So they knocked it out of the park right here, right? T8 everywhere. That's just the way to go, right? So I got to give them credit right there. Kizer is one of them companies that I guess they accepted the fact that the community, knife enthusiasts, they really love their T8s, and they're gonna give you the T8s, right, that you want for the money. So yeah, all T8 hardware all around, which is pretty good. Great small factor EDC. This makes a great primary if you're into smaller knives. Also, if you have some sort of local law that prevents you from carrying larger knives, this is also a great solution for that, or great recommendation. If you typically like heavier knives for the size, then definitely this definitely scratches that itch. It also works as a great secondary knife, right? Really good as a secondary knife, no doubt. I feel like the fact that it's pretty small, it also fits pretty much everywhere, right? Length and height right there is going to be pretty short, not very tall. So, you know, some other knives might be perhaps a little bit longer, maybe stick out some more from the pocket, right? Some other knives are pretty slim, like the Corgi Pup right there, right? That the whole streamlined, symmetric design, blade tucks away completely in the handle. Its thing. Another small, great secondary. The Chipmunk, you know, G10, a little bit lighter. But I get what they're going for here, 100%. So very gentleman, classy knife, right? Again, just there's something about, you know, I want my deployment method to work, especially if that's the only deployment method you're going to give me. I want it to work every single time. And for this one, again, you just have to be mindful of what you're doing. I'm not saying it doesn't work or anything like that. I don't want that to come across the wrong way. But, you know, I find myself failing it, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times out of 10 sometimes. Just going back to it every time. I'll have to carry it enough, like back to back to back, to kind of build that muscle memory. But if I'm switching to this knife from basically any other knife, then I'm like, oh, okay, tiny flipper tab. Let's recalibrate my brain all over again to remember what it is that I need to do to get this one going. So again, there was a reverse flick that lefty managed to do. There it is. I don't know. You just gotta getting creative with it. If you give it a little bit of a flick of the wrist and a little bit of a meat on blade contact, I don't know. He did it. Check out his video, right? That was just, you know, kind of like an additional deployment way that he figured out how to do, but apparently I can't crack in this video. But yeah, I mean, this one has a lot going for it. You know, I feel like, me personally, even though, you know, I have that little gripe with the flipper tab, even though I feel like for the most part, you know, some people are gonna love it or hate it, it still doesn't necessarily per se bother me a ton, right? I definitely wanted to make that point very clear, right? It's not, it wouldn't be my most preferred deployment method out of all the knives that I experience on a daily basis. But if I, you know, if this was in my collection and I had to carry it, right, this one's just a little bit different, right? It's like, oh, that's the one knife with a little, you know, interesting flipper tab, right? Here's another example that Vosteed Chipmunk also had a really tiny flipper tab right there, but works every single time, right? And at first I was a little concerned, maybe that's not gonna work, but then it ended up working every single time, right? Super, super functional. Super, super good. And again, you know, you have multiple deployment options. So maybe with a classy knife, a gentleman knife like this one with this approach, only calls for one deployment option. I'm not sure, but really that's the only thing. Again, me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the burlap micarta, but I can see if, you know, that's more so your ballpark, then you're definitely gonna love this one for sure. A titanium version with some milling would have been nice. And I don't know, man, I don't know if maybe doing the second version, the second run, maybe you can make the flipper tab maybe a tenth of an inch, right? Or I don't know, a hair bigger. Maybe another jimping line will make all the difference. That's just some feedback right there. I mean, me personally, I can get it to work. I have enjoyed this knife. Let me not, you know, don't get me wrong, carrying this knife, I've had a pleasure carrying it, right? But just that little gripe with that flipper tab. But other than that, you have a matching micarta backspacer. It is milled on the inside for weight reduction. Against the brass section, it's probably going to be the heaviest part in the knife. I want to say the balance is going to be somewhere right about right there, right? Maybe a little bit closer to the blade from the axis to the liner lock right there. You guys take a look. But yeah, interesting little knife. Again, something different. And I got to give Mark Perez props for that, right? Trying something different, something unique, trying a flipper tab that is very minimalistic. You gotta give the guy credit for trying something new, something different, right? And again, you see me here. Sometimes I get it to go, sometimes I don't get it to go. But anyways, that is the knife. Let's talk about a little bit about the price. So this one comes in at $82. So $82, you're getting the 154 cm. That is a better steel than your typical D2. Better steel than your Nitro V, 14C28N, right? The fit and finish on the knife is spot on, right? I feel like they do a great job here. There's a disassembly video also on Lefty's channel. Kevin, if you want to check it out as well. It's pretty interesting how they connect the brass and the micarta from within, right? That's pretty neat. So check that out. And yeah, I mean, the quality overall, right, is pretty good. This thing cuts like crazy. So as a tool, this thing is functional. It's not going to be, this is not going to be in any top fidgety nice list anytime soon. But can you get it deployed? Yes. Does it work as a knife? Yes. So perhaps my whole rambling, this whole video about how the flipper tab is so short is really relevant, because, you know, for a lot of people, they just see a knife that you can deploy, get to work, do what you need to do, and close it back in your pocket, and off you go, right? Not everyone is like me who sits there and fidgets with their knife 100 bajillion times throughout the day. But that's been it, guys. Check out the Kizer Gavel, again, a design from Newbury EDC, aka Mark Perez. Again, this knife will be linked down below if you want to check it out. It does help out the channel when you use those links, but that is entirely up to you. Really hope this video was useful, right? Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. What else would you have wanted to know about this knife? What else, or the questions you have about the knife? Anything specifically that you want to know, please let me know. But other than that, guys, please go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't already. It really helps the video with the YouTube algorithm. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you aren't already subscribed, I promise you'll be worth coming back for more. And if you want to support the channel a step further, you can support the channel on Patreon, link in the description, or right here on YouTube by becoming a channel member. You'll get access to exclusive perks. But that's been it, guys. If you made it to the very end, you guys are the real MVPs. I really appreciate and love all of you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for hanging out with me until the very end. Check out the unboxing on the Kizer Sub-3 OBK. All right, check this one out, 154 cm as well, aluminum handles. Unboxing live in the channel, review video coming up, so I'm gonna put a card for that one right here for you guys to check it out next. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.